Hello everyone. I wanted to share with you some short-term alternatives that I have found for a total repotting in moss. It is fall. It's headed towards the end of October now. And as you see, it's chilly outside and little buddy wants to find a sunny spot to keep warm. I love how he does this in the morning. He comes back here in the sunroom and finds himself a sunny spot to lay in. So I received this little miniature a few weeks ago, and I knew that it was just too late to repot it. It gets too late in the season to repot these because you don't have enough daylight hours to promote any root growth for the roots to establish in the moss or the bark before winter sets in. And so you don't get much new root growth until spring. So springtime is really the best time to do your repotting. So I want to hold on to this and keep it healthy until springtime. I feel comfortable here in my area repotting in the middle of February because that gets to the point where I'm almost at 12 hours of sunlight again, and that will tell the roots to start growing again. Right now, we're getting about 11 hours of daylight. So several of you have mentioned doing this. I thought I would give it a try. I kind of like the sound of doing a partial repot, but not taking it out of its original moss plug. So what I've done with this one, instead of a total repot, is this came in a tiny little 1-inch pot, and the moss was just a plug, for the lack of a better term. There was no air getting to these roots at all. So I had this little 2.5-inch pot. And so what I did is I just took the moss plug and I loosened it. And as I loosened it, I found that it would just fit right down into this little pot. So now the moss is much, much looser. So I thought I would just give this a try. The moss also doesn't smell. That's another important step in this process. If you get a miniature home, it has a moss plug and it is just rotten, then it's not going to make it even 4 months in that moss. It has decayed and it's turned rancid and acidic, and that little mini will not make it through the winter in that type of condition. But this moss plug, it looked good. So I believe that the moss is going to be able to hang on for 4 months. Keep in mind, this is for short term only. For some reason, there are a lot of really pretty miniature phals in stores in my area at this time of the year. So when you buy them, you have to do something to loosen the moss, or those roots are just going to suffocate. So I believe that for 4 months, this is going to be its temporary home. So I was also out of outer decorative pots. Sometimes this size pot is hard to find an outer decorative pot for. So I took my little clear cups that I like to use so much. I put some charcoal pieces in it. I really like the look of charcoal. It's just really, really neat to use with orchids. And so this is its new home. So if there's any little tiny drips of water after I water this one in moss, it's just going to go down into that charcoal. It's going to be a lot easier for me to water it and to make sure that all the water has drained from the moss, which is really important this time of the year as well. So my plan for this one is to wait until about February, around the middle of February, and then I'm going to place this in New Zealand sphagnum moss. And I'm just hoping that this works. But like I said, this moss is in pretty good shape. It is not for long-term use. The moss plugs that these miniatures come in, they are not for long-term use. This is the cheaper brown basket moss, and I don't recommend you leave your orchids in that low-grade moss for more than just 3 or 4 months at the most. So I am just hoping that it lasts for that long. I believe it's going to be just fine. Okay, and let me show you something else that I did just yesterday. This is my little intensity mini, and as you see, it's got a spike. And back in May, it was in one of those smaller cups that I showed you before, and it just kept growing roots and roots and roots and roots. So I repotted it into this longer cup with holes in the bottom, of course, and look what happened. It's already growing out of this pot as well. Well, it's too late to transplant it. I don't even want to put this one in a larger pot by adding more moss to it. So what I did was I took one of my solo cups that's just a little bit bigger, and I placed some little pebbles. I placed some of the charcoal chips. I love those charcoal chips. They look so cool. And here we go. So I don't have to do anything with this one until spring. I don't have to disturb it, especially while it's in spike. I don't want to do anything to disturb it. So this is what this looks like. So when I stake it, it's going to have a nice outer pot that's going to keep it stable, and I don't have to disturb the plant. So I hope those tips help you. You all have a fabulous day, and be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And we'll talk to you all next time.